Hey, it's Richard Lights and Gadgets, and it was about 4 months ago when we first reviewed the ASUS PadFone, which was, a bit of a beast in its own right. And as you can see, this is the first PadFone 1, by the way, with the PadFone station, and it's rather bulky, it's a bit heavy, and the whole loading mechanism, we kind of like it for the retro feel, but it does add a bit of thickness to it. But what happened earlier this week was that ASUS actually went ahead and launched the second generation of the PadFone, which is just called the PadFone 2. And here it is. First of all, it is very, very light. This is actually lighter than the new iPad, everything together here. Whereas the original PadFone with the PadFone station, this actually weighed heavier than the first iPad. So this is quite an achievement. And obviously you can see that now the loading mechanism on the back is just much more straightforward. You just slide it in and out. And we've actually seen some of the mock-ups that ASUS has made while developing the PadFone, and they have been exploring this kind of mechanism. But it's just, until now, they haven't quite managed how to make sure the phone is secure inside. So let's just go ahead and show you guys how they do it. Here you can actually see they've got the sort of rubber grip. They say it's very similar to how a car brake works. So what happens is you slide in, and it's very easy. You just slide it until it kind of clicks and vibrates. And to slide out, you simply just go ahead and pull it out like that. Very little effort is needed. However, when you want to try and shake it out, it's very secure. Like, you can see we are trying as hard as we can. Actually, don't want to get too much attention, but you know what, go ahead. It really is secure. All right, I think we've proven the point. So obviously that's part of the reason why they've managed to make the new PadFone station much lighter. And also packed inside is a 5,000 milliamp hour battery. Now that's slightly smaller than what they had on the first PadFone station. But to be able to achieve this kind of weight and slimness, we actually don't mind. And let's just focus on the phone for now. The new phone, which is on my right here, has a quad-core APQ8064 chip from Qualcomm. So it is pretty much the best mobile processor you can get right now. And whereas its little brother over here, the PadFone 1, had a dual-core MSM8260, which is based on the same crate architecture and same clock speed, but it only has 2 cores. Whether a quad core is going to be any useful for everyday use is still questionable, but obviously it's all about price per performance ratio. So, and the fact that they've managed to pack this inside and also letting you use it as a tablet is pretty much a very good selling point anyway. Now, the display you see here, it's obviously a lot bigger than the first PadFone. This thing here has a 4.7-inch 720p Super IPS Plus display. It's actually sourced from Sharp, which is using the IGZO technology that enables less power required for the LED backlight. So that's why they're able to achieve brightness of up to 550 nits, which means even though we're under very strong sunlight, we are still able to look at the screen without really squinting at it. Whereas that wasn't really the case with the Super AMOLED panel on the first PadFone. So that's another tick on the list. Another big improvement, which you probably can't see in here, is the 13 megapixel camera on the back. It's a BSI sensor from Sony, and it's capable of filming 1080p videos, as you'd expect, as well as 720p, but at 60 frames per second. Now, that is still a rare feature on phones these days, so, but that does make video very, very slick. And likewise, you can also see this kind of effect when you take photos, when you're using the camera software on the new PadFone. It just makes everything very slick and makes you basically a happier person. Now, in terms of software, the PadFone 2 comes with just Android 4.0, but ASUS has promised a Jelly Bean update at some point in the near future. which means very likely before the end of the year, considering how ASUS has gotten the upper hand on the whole Jelly Bean partnership with Google. And other than that, it's very much just a scaled up version of the original PadFone. As you can see on the back, there's also the same circular Zen replica design. You can scratch it. Well, the back cover is removable, but it's not designed to be removed as frequently as you could. There's a bit of adhesive inside as well to keep things together, especially, oh yes, there it is. As you'll see in a second, there is an NFC antenna, but oh my gosh, it's rather stiff. There we go. This is the this piece of copper. Behind it is the NFC antenna, and we're guessing this is part some sort of shielding from the actual circuitry. And here you can see, well, there's the camera, and there's a loudspeaker here, which is actually makes audio very crisp. We've noticed. In fact, we'd say there's definitely a slight improvement over the original PadFone's audio performance. But we can't say the same for the battery, because while you can actually see it here, there's a massive label here saying please do not remove. We are not quite sure what the reason is behind this. Maybe it's purely on the basis of wear and tear, and so ASUS doesn't want people to keep ripping the cover off. As you can see, this is a 2140 milliamp hour battery here, which you cannot remove. On a similar note, sadly, there is no slot for the micro SD card expansion. They do offer a 64 gigabyte model, but obviously that means you have to pay upfront for that kind of storage. And if you do want more, want to go beyond 64 gigabytes, then sorry, you're going to have to rely on various cloud services or USB OTG if you don't mind having a dongle stuck at the bottom of your phone. But speaking of cloud storage, there is going to be 50 gigabytes of web storage from ASUS, and you get that for free for 2 years, so that's not too bad of a deal. Now, we mentioned USB earlier, but what we have here is, we say weird, but ASUS says it's actually kind of standard to them. So ASUS calls this the Mhl Port. Now, Mhl isn't really sort of a defined sort of hard piece of hardware. It's more about the protocol and the standard. But basically what ASUS has done here is using similar configurations as micro USB, but adding a few extra pins in order to allow all the data and signal and power and all that to go through in that one port. On the old PadFone, you can actually see they had the 2 ports here, as well as the antenna bits, which used to be here on the original PadFone. So basically, ASUS has managed to tuck everything into that one spot at the bottom, and it works really well. The only concern is that if you use a regular micro USB connector on this, it will be slightly loose. So ASUS does recommend you using the provided 13-pin connector if you want to charge up your phone or do data transfer. Another big change is that what used to be virtual buttons on the first PadFone are now capacitive buttons. And another small change is that the power button where it used to be at the top is now down here on the side, for obvious reasons really, because now if you slide the phone into the tablet, the top part will be exposed, so they naturally have to put the buttons down inside the bay. But where it used to be a power button is now replaced by a SIM card slot. Well, a tray, in fact. It's one of those where you need to use a safety pin to push your tray out. So that's kind of annoying in a way. This is using a micro SIM card now. So if you are still using the old mini SIM card or the regular SIM cards, then you will have to get it trimmed down, which shouldn't be too much of a problem these days. Some shops actually do it for free now anyway. But like we said, the safety pin requirement can be a bit of an annoyance here. One final thing that we almost missed is that the front-facing camera on the phone itself is now a 1.2 megapixel camera, and which means you guys can now take self-portraits and get a much better quality out of it. Whereas on the old phone, it was just at the VGA resolution, which was just okay for video chats, but not quite for self-portraits. So enough with the phone itself. Let's actually slide this into the PadFone station. So what used to you take 2 seconds to go from the phone to tablet interface now only requires around 1 second. So which is a natural progression in a way. It's probably hard for you guys to see it here, but we've already triggered the outdoor mode on this IPS panel. This is a 10.1-inch 1280 by 800 panel, by the way. So far, even under the sunlight, we can still see things rather clearly, just like on the original PadFone station. But like we said, this is so much lighter, and we still can't believe we're actually using a tablet with a phone tucked inside it. So the front-facing camera here is a 1 megapixel camera, so not too far from the one sat inside the phone. And on the back here, you can see there's the power button at this corner, and there's the volume rocker over here. Both of these buttons are easily accessible, but at the same time, we haven't managed to accidentally hit them so far. So these are nicely positioned, would say. And then down here is a mono speaker, and similar to the original PadFone station, it's able to produce a really powerful sound. Obviously that's only effective when you're indoors instead of here, but you get the idea. So that's thanks to the ASUS Golden Ear team. They're very dedicated to packing as much audio power inside the devices as possible. Now, as I was saying earlier, the original PadFone station is significantly thicker than the new PadFone station, which you guys can probably see here. But at the same time, the thickness provided a bit more girth for our grip, making it slightly more comfortable to hold this way. Whereas the new PadFone station, while we're okay with holding it like that, and there's definitely nothing wrong with it, but as we're sort of walking around, we actually prefer holding our hands on the thicker part, which is actually convenient on the phone itself. Which means whenever we want to take a photo, we have to make sure that the lens cover there is clean. But still, it's a good thing that we're still able to have a bit of an area for gripping here. This one here is also used in that ASUS 13-pin Mhl dock connector, which is the same as the one on the PadFone itself. Now what this means is that we won't be seeing a dedicated hardware keyboard for the PadFone 2 station, but at the end of the day there is still Bluetooth keyboard, and also since this device supports USB host, you can somehow plug in a USB keyboard if you really want to, except you need to find some way to stand your PadFone station up. It's got to be tough for us to show you guys what the software is like, so we're just gonna go back inside and give you guys a quick tour on the various features, as well as giving you a demo on the performance of the software.